everyone. Just going to take a few minutes here to explain what you need to do to complete the week 2 discussion. All right, so this week's discussion topic is favorite movie, right? Hopefully this is something that everybody is at least a little excited to write about. But I do want to make sure that you understand exactly what I'm looking for in your posts, right? So the discussion question says, list 3 things you look for in a good movie. And then in all caps it says, the plot slash story cannot be one of your 3 qualities, right? So what do you look for in a good movie if we're not allowed to talk about the story, the plot? Well, you could talk about things like the acting, um, the costumes, the makeup, the music, the special effects, the cinematography, right? I always tell students, think like the categories at like the Oscars, the Academy Awards, right? They do have a category for movies that were written really well, right? So there's best original screenplay and best adapted screenplay, right? But most of the categories that they hand out Oscars for are not about the storyline or the plot of a movie, right? We have best actor, best actress, best supporting actor, best supporting actress. We have best costume, best makeup, best soundtrack, best score, and best original song, directing, cinematography, right? We've got a whole slew of categories. Now, some of them, you and I, the lay person, might not be super familiar with, but I think we understand costumes and makeup and music and special effects and acting, right? So you want to pick 3 things that you look for in a good movie that don't involve the movie's storyline. So you'll list those 3 things first, right? And then you're going to choose a specific movie that you really love or a specific movie that you thought was awful and explain how that movie measures up in the 3 categories you chose. It's like if you chose special effects, acting, and soundtrack, and the movie you pick is one that you think does a great job in all 3 of those, give us examples of how it does well in all 3 of those categories. Or maybe you picked a movie that you thought was going to be really great, but it turned out it was awful because the special effects were no good and the acting was really not that great and the music was horrible, right? You can give me a negative example, right? But I thought ideally we'd be dealing with favorite movies, but I will allow you to go the opposite direction if that works, if you can wrap your mind around that better. So either way, 3 things you look for in a good movie. The storyline slash plot cannot be one of them. And then choose a specific movie and tell us how it measures up in those 3 areas. The idea here, the reason that you're not going to be talking about the plot, is because you're giving a movie review. And a good movie review does not give away spoilers. It does not tell us the story. It doesn't summarize the movie. It doesn't give away anything. It gives us just enough about all of the other great qualities in the film to then make us want to go watch it. Because if we knew too much, if we read a movie review and it tells us the whole story, even the ending, then why would we feel like we need to go watch it, right? Maybe we would eventually, but we're certainly not going to feel like we need to go watch it right away. So you want to pick a movie that you can talk about that has these other elements that were really good about it, right? Okay. I want to give you a quick example just to sort of drive this point home. If I were doing this discussion, first I would have a hard time because I love movies and I have multiple favorite movies. And maybe you're the same way. So I would just pick one that I really love. It might not be my ultimate favorite, but it's one that I really enjoy, and I know that I can come up with very specific examples of why it's good. My movie would be Forrest Gump, right? The three things that I look for in a good movie, if it's going to have special effects, I want them to be good. I want the acting to be good. And if it's going to have a significant musical element, I want the music to be good, right? So, special effects, acting, and soundtrack. So, Forrest Gump is my movie. I would talk about the special effects. I would talk about how there are scenes where it looks like Forrest was parts of these like significant moments in history that were caught on film, right? And in the movie, they did a really good job of making it seem like Tom Hanks was really there with these historical figures. The special effect of Lieutenant Dan not losing his legs, um, that sort of thing. The acting, I would definitely point out examples of where Tom Hanks just really blew my mind. The moments where Robin Wright as Jenny did a great job. The moments where Gary Sinise did a great job as Lieutenant Dan. I wouldn't give like a ton of examples. It's a discussion. You don't want it to go on and on and on. But I would give, at least one example of each of those actors. Then the soundtrack. I would talk about how the soundtrack covers, like decades of popular music, and how the timing of certain songs was perfect. Like how they used California Dreamin' when Jenny was leaving, how they used the Leonard Skinner song when she was up on the ledge about, contemplating jumping off, how they used Fortunate Son by Creedence Clearwater Revival when the helicopter is taking them to Vietnam. And there's just, several moments in that movie. The soundtrack as a whole is really quite good, but it's really some of those moments where the song was just perfectly placed, right? So that's what I would do. At no point would I tell you what Forrest Gump is about or how it, plays out, right? I might give you like maybe a couple sentences just to sort of explain that it's, a movie about a man's, journey through life and all of the lessons he learns and the significant moments that, make him who he is, basically. And that could go 100 different ways if you don't know what Forrest Gump is actually about. Um, that leaves a lot of room to really still wonder exactly what the movie shows us. But it gives you enough to at least have some idea of, what type of movie it is, right? So focus more on a movie that has these other elements that make it really good. Talk about that movie and give examples of how it is really good in those three areas you chose, right? All right, so again, try to have your first post up by Thursday night so that everyone has plenty of classmates to choose from so that you can respond to 2 people by Sunday night. The discussion will remain open for 1 extra week, but if you are posting during that extra week, it will be with a 50% point reduction. So at most, you could only get 10 out of 20 on the discussion if you're posting during that second week. 10 is better than 0, but 20 is better than 10. So do your best to make sure that you have the discussion completed by Sunday so that you don't go into that additional week and have those points deducted. If you have any questions or run into any technical issues with the discussion, reach out right away. Otherwise, I can't wait to read about all your guys' favorite movies, right?